talk to you first about good government and fiscal responsibility as the first linchpin of our agenda. This budget sets priorities to ensure that core functions of government are well funded and that those areas are well prepared for the future. Now again, that means making some tough decisions, setting priorities, and then making the decisions necessary to effect those changes in the budget. Senator Norment will talk a little bit more about these priorities shortly. Reforming and restructuring government to make it smaller and more efficient is key also this session. Our proposals include eliminating state agencies, merging other state agencies, 7 of them into each other, eliminating 19 boards and commissions, merging 23 more, moving 4 offices to consolidate with others, deregulating 3 professions, and other reforms that will save money and make it easier for people to access government. And Speaker Howell, who was the vice chairman of our Government Reform Commission, will have more to say on that. We want to also initiate a JLARC review on unfunded federal mandates on Virginia that are costing us literally billions and billions of dollars, just with EPA regulations, Justice Department mandates, Obamacare, and others. We intend to ask JLARC to study the impact of these federal mandates on Virginia as we craft a proposal to seek relief from those mandates. And similarly, we're going to ask that General Assembly approve repeal of certain local mandate or state mandates on local governments that burden them with costly unfunded bureaucracy. We also must fund VRS at substantially higher levels. Everyone knows the system is underfunded by $20 billion and it's heading the wrong way, and we've got to fix it. We're determined that we're not going to pass on that problem to another governor or another General Assembly. Now, in the area of job creation and economic development, we've proposed yet another aggressive agenda with budget initiatives and legislation that will make it easier for businesses large and small to create jobs. And our Chief Jobs Creation Officer, Lieutenant Governor Bolling, will outline those initiatives in just a minute. Part of creating jobs is making sure we have a world-class transportation system. Now, last year, with the leadership of Speaker Howell and others, we passed the largest amount of new funding in a generation, nearly $4 billion for construction. But we know we still have a maintenance deficit every year of over $400 million. We are going to support a plan that will help to reduce that maintenance deficit through things like revenue sharing and diversifying Virginia's transportation assets. In the area of education, we realize the old saying is true. To get a good job, you need a good education. Yesterday, I proposed some things in our Opportunity to Learn agenda to ensure that we are not only funding education well, but we're bringing more rigor, more accountability, higher standards, more transparency to our K-12 system. We intend to raise standards for both schools and for teachers and administrators, reduce mandates, expand education options for Virginia schools with tuition tax credits, an easier path to charter and virtual schools, and provide critical funding for targeted education and training programs. I proposed $438 million in the budget this year to bolster K-12 education. We also know that we have got to stop this decade-long trend of doubling our tuitions in our higher education system. So I proposed $230 million towards that end to make college more affordable and accessible for our young people and further the goal that we all support of adding 100,000 new degrees over the next 15 years, particularly in those areas that are going to create new jobs: science, technology, engineering, math, healthcare, business, and things of that nature. So our goal is to work together this session in a cooperative way to solve problems, get things done, not shrink away from the big challenges and the big problems that face Virginia, but to take them head on and propose solutions that we know will work. That's what citizens want. Republican, Democrat, Independent, that's what they want out of government. Get things done, get results, fix problems, govern effectively and efficiently, and then stay out of our way. Let us do things in a free society to pursue the American dream. And that's what this Republican caucus is all about. Now, we don't have any Democrats here today, I don't think. Maybe a couple of them snuck in there that like the agenda so much, but we want to reach out and to tell all of our friends on the other side of the aisle that we welcome them to join us in this agenda. Last year they did a unanimous budget that rarely happens, a unanimous higher education reform package, tremendous bipartisan support for an innovative transportation package, and so on. Because the numbers have changed, our ability and our willingness to work together in a bipartisan but principled way with our Democratic friends has not changed. With that, I want to introduce to you the Chief Jobs Creation Officer for the Commonwealth, Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling.
Thank you, Governor, very much. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming out and being with us here today on the steps of the South Portico of the State Capitol as we announce our 2012 legislative agenda. It is an honor to be joined with the Governor, the Speaker, the Attorney General, soon-to-be Majority Leader of the Senate of Virginia, Senator Tommy Norment, and all of our colleagues in the House and in the Senate. As you all know, over the last 2 years, the top priority of our administration has been creating jobs and getting Virginia's economy moving again. And we've had great support from the members of the General Assembly in our effort to do that. As a result of our Jobs and Opportunity Agenda in 2010, our Opportunity at Work Agenda in 2011, we've invested over $100 million in proven economic development and job creation programs, and we have the results to show for that. Virginia's economy today is continuing to do better than almost any other state in the nation, but there's more to be done. So in our joint legislative package, there are a number of initiatives on the budget side and the legislative side that we think will continue to help advance that effort. The Governor referenced our Greatest Opportunity Agenda. It is the third piece in the third year of this administration to address the issue of economic development and job creation with an additional $37 million in investments which are targeted towards strategic economic development programs in areas where we believe Virginia has an opportunity to reach tremendous rewards. But more than just the economic investment that we want to make, there are a number of important legislative initiatives in our agenda this year that we will be pursuing together. For example, we have to make sure that Virginia remains a great place to do business. As a result, this year we will continue our effort to give Virginia's right to work law, which is such an important tool that we have in our efforts to attract new business, industry, and jobs to our state, constitutional protection. In addition to that, there will be legislation to say that no money, no taxpayer money, no Virginia money will go to any projects that involve mandatory project labor agreements. We think that's the wrong direction. We think that violates the spirit of Virginia's right to work law, and we want to make sure that we continue to stand strong to protect that right to work law. The Governor mentioned one other important area, and that's the area of transportation. He's right. Last year we made the largest investment in highway maintenance and construction in Virginia in a generation. But there is, again, more that we can do. And having a modern transportation infrastructure is critical to our ability to attract new business, industry, and jobs to our state. So the Governor has put forth an aggressive proposal this year that will generate an additional $110 million for highway maintenance and construction in Virginia by using existing resources and without raising taxes. In addition, we're also going to work to expand our state's revenue sharing program, which matches local funding dollar for dollar to include maintenance, which will enable us to catch up on some of the many outstanding maintenance projects that we have across the state, and other strategic areas of transportation which are directly tied to economic development will also be addressed. For example, our transportation plan this year includes comprehensive bills to reform the Virginia Commercial Spaceflight Authority. We believe that has a tremendous opportunity to help with our economic development efforts in the future, and also promote greater growth and utility of the Port of Virginia, which is one of Virginia's greatest economic assets. So as we have said for the past 2 years, the top priority of this administration is creating jobs. In 2009, we talked about the fact that Bob was for jobs and Bill was for business. Bob is still for jobs and Bill is still for business. And we're going to take another important step this year in helping support and reinvest in the economic development infrastructure of our state.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Next, I'd like to introduce the Attorney General, who will discuss some legal and constitutional issues. Ken?
Good afternoon. While the economy continues to be a top priority for Virginians and for everyone before you here today, we will not leave behind fundamental principles. This year, we will once again see introduced constitutional amendment to Virginia's state constitution to finally protect property rights in Virginia's state constitution. Rights that are not now protected effectively under the federal constitution, as we learned 7 years ago in the Kelo case. Everyone behind me who's returning from re-election voted last year to pass this constitutional amendment. And we have new members, as the governor mentioned here, to join us. And this is one of those areas that has been an excellent example of bipartisan cooperation. It is the little guy that is protected when we protect property rights, be it small businesses or homeowners. That's who we're protecting, and encouraging them to come to Virginia, to strike out entrepreneurially in Virginia, and to be safe in their homes and their businesses financially. And this is something that takes 2 attempts, once before an election, that was last session, and once after an election, that will be this session. There'll be legislation that accompanies the constitutional amendment, but it seems very appropriate that we raise this issue here on the steps of Thomas Jefferson's Capitol. I would note Thomas Jefferson didn't think you should be able to take private property for any reason. Now, we didn't go that way, but we do require good public reasons for taking private property, and we require just compensation. This is something that many of us have worked on for many years. Lots of the people on the steps here behind me have invested themselves politically in protecting these rights. And here, in the home of the most founding fathers in Virginia, it seems only appropriate that this most fundamental of rights be protected in our own state constitution. And I'm confident that with the help and support of everyone behind me on these steps, the cooperation of the governor, lieutenant governor, our entire statewide team, that we will finally protect this fundamental right in Virginia's state constitution, and finally bring protection to individuals, homeowners, and business owners from the threat of an overreaching state or local government, because we know it can happen here too, just like we have our occasional issue with the federal government. Not that I would know anything about that, but we'll be dealing with those issues separately. So I'm glad to be here with this great team, an expanded Republican team, working for the benefit of Virginia and starting with first principles. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, General. Now I'd like to invite to the podium the Speaker of the House, Bill Howell.
They think I haven't made my committee assignments yet. 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, right here, the governor, after having been inaugurated, signed 2 executive orders. The second executive order created what we call the Government Reform Commission. Unlike earlier government reform commissions, this particular commission has a life of about 4 years. So often we create these new commissions to look at efficiencies and how we can make government more economical, more effective, more efficient. And we'd have a task force that would look at it for 60, 90 days and then kind of go away. And it's very, very difficult work. And the Government Reform Commission, which I've had the pleasure of being the vice chairman of, has been meeting fairly diligently over the past 2 years and will continue to meet over the next 2 years. We've come out with some ideas for reforming state government, some of which will be included in our legislative agenda for this coming year. But the need is critical. JLARC, the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, recently reported that over the past 10 years, Virginia's budget has increased by over $15 billion. That's about 66%, 35% when you adjust for inflation. That's too much. For example, Virginia currently has over 300 boards and commissions. And these boards take time to manage, they take time to create and to deal with. They require money for staff and for travel and for materials. And our commission has been looking at ways where we can improve efficiencies and focus on the core mission of government while still preserving citizen input into the work of their government. Over the years, the number of state agencies and boards has gradually grown, and legislation this session will include a number to realign and consolidate some of these agencies. I'm excited about the proposal. I'm excited about the governor's commitment and promise to doing what we can to reform the government delivery of services. I'm looking forward to this General Assembly session and the subsequent sessions where we can continue to address this. Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to introduce the Majority Leader in the Virginia Senate, Tommy Norment.
You haven't got your committee assignments yet either, so you better be a little more euphoric here. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you. Several references have been made to President Jefferson's Capitol here. Some of you may recall that I was more than casually interested in the 2007 commemoration of the 400th of the anniversary of the founding of America at Jamestown. One of the things that we found out during that process was that when the restoration of this Capitol was taking place, they actually did some borings into these columns, and when they did the borings, they found that the original timbers that Thomas Jefferson had designed were still inside of those facades there. This gave a great idea to some of us who are working on the state budget. Perhaps we needed to bore through the veneer and look at the very core issues of how we were conducting the budget conference and to see whether or not we could make it more transparent and make it more efficient. Yesterday, a group of us under the leadership of Chairman Lacey Putney, Vice Chairman Kirk Cox, and what I expect will be tomorrow Chairman Walter Stosh of the Finance Committee, we announced some reforms and transparency measures as it relates to the Virginia budget and conference process. I'm very pleased to share with you what I think will be a historical reformation on the way that Virginia handles the budget conference and will provide more transparency. First of all, we set as a goal to give each member of the General Assembly an adequate period of time to review that final budget conference, and our aspirations are a minimum of 24 hours, if not 48 hours. We further have committed that we will complete the budget conference process no later than Saturday, March the 10th. The question was asked yesterday, well, aren't those dates incorporated into the procedural resolution? Yes, they are, but we intend to make those more than aspirational and to make them, in fact, happen this year. We are intending to complete the budget conference agreement by the procedural deadline on Tuesday, March the 6th. What that will do is it will give the staff an adequate period of time to prepare the conference report and the other supporting documentation. We've also set up a schedule that Delegate Cox and Senator Stosh have worked on so that we have some specific timelines and benchmarks by which we hope to accomplish certain objectives. And we're going to do something that is unprecedented. We are actually going to have members of the House Appropriations Committee and the Senate Finance Committee start talking about some of the major issues immediately as the General Assembly convenes. We are not going to sit around and wait to start those discussions until the various budgets pass over and cross over. We're further going to adopt something that most businesses adhere to, and that's a formal agenda for each and every meeting. We're going to have both staffs working off the same spreadsheets. Some of these things sound so commonsensical, yet you would think that you did not have to bore through a facade to find the real substance of what needs to be done. But I think 2 points in closing. First of all, this is really almost an unprecedented example of collaboration between the House Appropriations Committee and the Senate Finance Committee, and I think it's a standard that we all should be very proud of. Secondly, consistent with His Excellency the Governor's closing remarks, we in the Senate for many, many years have enjoyed collegiality and comedy, particularly as it relates to the budget. I think it's perfectly appropriate for there to be a very spirited and zealous debate about the budget amendments themselves before they are incorporated into the final Senate budget. But I think that's where it needs to end. And so on behalf of the Senate Republicans, I am extending an invitation to my Democratic Senate friends that I hope that they will embrace, and that is that they will work with us in a collegiate manner to craft a budget that represents the best interest of the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Norment, Mr. Speaker, General, Lieutenant Governor, members of the House and the Senate. We are delighted to be here to tell you what we're going to accomplish this session as the Assembly kicks off in less than 24 hours in the building behind me. We're going to continue to stand strong for fiscal responsibility and efficient and effective government, and work hard to get these three areas of the agenda completed. Better, higher quality education, so we have more opportunity for the American dream. More job and economic development, effective legislation, and ways to make government more efficient and accountable. If we can do all these things, I think Virginia, great as she is today, will be much better when we adjourn in March. With that, I'd be glad to take any questions. Wow, what a thorough discussion. All right, we really appreciate everybody joining us. The sun is shining on the Republican caucus today. Thank you very much.